Hello, everybody. My name is Rodrigo Gonzalez, aka Rodgon, as you might know me on YouTube. And today we are going to be drawing together. So let me just set up the YouTube stream so we have the chat going, and we are good to go. All right. So, hi, everybody. First of all, let me say hi, hello. Merry happy Thanksgiving or day after Thanksgiving. I hope you guys all had a fantastic time with your families, friends, or however you choose to celebrate it. I got myself a little Green Lantern ring, so I am going to wear that. All right. And put on our glove. Does our glove cover this? No, it doesn't. All right. Today's topic wasn't voted on by anybody. And it's something that I just want to talk about a little bit. And it's called sketchbook habits. How do you maintain a sketchbook, right? How do you maintain a sketchbook and you can consistently want to draw on it? How do you make it so that you want to continuously create and make things really pretty in your book, right? How do you use your sketchbook to learn, and how do you use it to advance, and how do you use it to just get better at art? Our sketchbooks are normally our number one tool when it comes down to learning and experimenting, and essentially it's our go-to tool as artists that allows us to try and experiment new things. Now, your sketchbook and the ability to learn from your sketchbook is only going to be dependent on how much you actually allow yourself to learn. What do I mean by that? Well, if you do not actively think about the things that you're supposed to be learning, you're never going to learn them. What do I mean by that? If you are not really thinking about perspective or things like that whenever you are drawing, let's say, eyes. We talked about eyes in the last session. So we talked about eyes. So if you don't understand eyes, you would spend an entire day just drawing something of eyes in your sketchbook. You would constantly find yourself drawing really bad eyes. You would be constantly going all right, so Rod said that an eye is just a circle that's turned into a sphere. And then you take these hemispheres and you go around your shape and you get an eye. Right? So taking that simple concept into play, you are now able to draw an eye a little bit better. It might still be hard for you to see things like this, right? Because not everybody just adopts three-dimensional thinking overnight. It takes a while, right? It takes a while to get used to it, and it takes a while to be able to draw things in different directions for it. So don't be taken aback if you can't get these concepts right away. These are things that I have taken 20 years to develop and 20 years to make it look easy, right? So this is not necessarily the easiest concepts to grasp, but it is put in a way that is easy for you to access whenever you do have the time to practice your tools to be able to get there. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about sketchbook habits, what you can do to make sure that you have the most time possible on your sketchbook. And meanwhile, we're going to be answering questions you guys might have. So feel free to ask anything on the chat. I will do my best to answer through doodles. I would love for you guys, if you guys feel so inclined, to hit that little heart thing when it comes down to TikTok. Try to hit that little heart. And for my people up here on YouTube, if you are not subscribed yet, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can get the numbers that I need to be able to do this full time. Chris Cook, hey. All right, so sketchbook habits. So whenever we have a sketchbook in front of us, right? Sometimes, especially if we're beginners and we don't really have the concept in our brain of what to do with the sketchbook, we tend to always overthink it and put too much importance on things being pretty as opposed to things being like meant for learning. So a lot of people think that their portfolio is like the be all of everything. So if they show their sketchbook, it's gonna be like their portfolio piece or something, right? When people put too much importance on how their sketchbook looks, with regards of, oh, it has to be finished artwork, and you kind of, yeah, you create something really pretty, but at the same time, you're probably just implementing a lot of the same ideas that you already know. So you're just refining something that you already are familiar with, right? If you're just considering yourself like a person that just draws really pretty things in their sketchbook, odds are you are not pushing yourself as much as you should. Your sketchbook should be your number one tool to getting better. Let's see, inside is the thumb. Okay. Let's see, finger on top. It's always interesting to me. The people that have the messiest sketchbooks tends to be the better artists, in my opinion. Mostly because they allow themselves to explore, they allow themselves to like think outside the box, or they allow themselves to actually teach themselves, which is the number one like thing that people stop doing once they get to a certain level in art. They stop trying to learn. They Once we get to a certain level, we normally automatically assume that we are going to be good at what we do and that we already got there, right? Since the struggle is so high to normally get to even to a professional level of artwork, we normally get satisfied whenever we achieve anything similar to that. The thing is, we kind of cut ourselves short from our true potential whenever we just decide to stop learning. Because it's only when you get older and you get more experience doing what you do that when you look back at your basics, like your anatomy and perspective, right? When you're a little bit older and you have a little bit more experience, you're able to actually pay attention to things at a deeper level. So some people might see little subdivisions like this. I'm seeing things to the point where I can pinpoint like a minuscule part within that design. So I can actually go and I can actually visualize many, 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 many lines when I'm doing this. So when I'm doing this, it's not necessarily just drawing a flat surface. I'm drawing all my basic shapes with all the perspective lines that they might come across. All the angle changes, lines, flats, stuff like that. That is what I'm doing whenever I'm thinking of this. This is going to be just me. But I do resemble Luigi and Mario quite a bit. So, one suggestion is to use your sketchbook as a learning tool. How can you do that? How can you easily like establish your sketchbook as something you're going to learn with? Well, what you do is you straight up just tell yourself at the top of the page what you're going to learn and what you're going to practice. Let's say in this case we say anatomy. Just write it at the top of the page. And then as you're going through your character, heavily focus on understanding the anatomy of whatever you draw in this page. For example, I have my eye socket. I have my eyeball that has my closed eyelid. And therefore the shadows for the rest of the face would end up being something like that. Because my eyeball is a sphere, it's closed, and my eye socket comprises of a pocket or like a cup in which a little ball is placed, which is my eyeball, and then you have a lot of negative space around it. Right, so that's what's happening here in my eye socket. So I'm going to overemphasize that just so that I can get a visual in my brain of what's going on. Now, it's not the cleanest, it's not the prettiest sketch, and maybe it threw off the sketch that I already had before because it was already pretty and whatever. But it doesn't matter to me. Like, that's not the purpose of my sketchbook. My purpose is to be able to map this out better so that next time that I'm drawing a character, I don't have to think about it too much. Right? If you're aware of how your character is shaped, you don't have to worry so much about little details in different perspectives, different ways of seeing it, because you start seeing things in just general 3D shapes. In this case, it's like the cup. I would say take in the advice and then doodle, practice until you're pleased. Yeah, I mean, all this knowledge, all this information that I give you guys, it's only as beneficial as what you put together to like practice with. Like if you don't take the time to practice the things that I teach you guys, I can teach you guys all day long. At the end of the day, you guys might have the knowledge, but you won't apply it to your drawings. So you have to make sure that whenever you are learning something new, try to like put it into action as soon as you can. Like, don't just practice drawing spheres all over and over. Like, whenever you're drawing your shapes and you're practicing these things, add like an eyeball part and then just get used to drawing the shapes around it. Right? Put it into use into something that you would actually do. And then get used to seeing what works, what doesn't. Right? But you're still always thinking about going around the shape. This is what gives you nice round eyes whenever you are drawing eyes. Right? This is what allows you to get that little subtle like curvature that, people do with their cartoons, with their pinups. It's because they're going around your shape, and it's just a basic sphere. That is just literally this. It's a sphere that has a ball, and it has two hemispheres going and cutting it up. We talked all about the eye yesterday, so I'm not going to go too much into the eyes today, right? Today we're talking more about sketchbook habits. So if you guys want to learn about the eyes a little bit more and you guys want to get better, just watch that video. Just watch that video, and I promise you by the end of it, you will be better. And if you don't get better, let me know so I can change my lesson a little bit so I can actually like get to people that think like you. And I often find myself explaining things in many different ways just so that people from all walks of life understand what we're drawing. Some people visualize things like this. Some people visualize things differently. Some people visualize things by drawing big shapes. So that's why I talk about the mask, right? The mask allows you to map out with shapes instead of lines. So whenever you are drawing from the side, a mask gives you all the information from the little cup. It gives you the side of your cup, the front of your cup, and then you just draw your eyes in there. Right, so that's another way that you can visualize it, and you can practice doing that too. And it's very valid, and it works, and it looks nice, and it gives you all the placement of all the things you need. Right, so that's just another way that you can go about learning how to draw a face. There's a million ways to skin a cat. There's a quadrillion ways to draw a face. Right? There's the Loomis method. There's my methods. Right? There's people that do it out of boxes. There's people that just start with a circle and a dot. Right? There's many different ways that people go about drawing their faces. Learning different styles, different variations of how to create something that you're so passionate about is going to be very, very important for you to be able to get down. Some people even break them down with like bean bags. Right? Like learning the act of seeing things in a three-dimensional space is going to be the key factor in all of these, right? All of these take into consideration the idea that there's a side to the face, right? All of them take into consideration the idea of a 3D shape. Now, if you're still styling things with like, and drawing your hands like this, like without really any construction lines or anything, I honestly think that you should consider trying to think more inclined of this type of drawing if you want to get a faster learning curve that's exponential and it doesn't stop you at any point, right? Learning how to draw something is not hard. Learning how to draw a really pretty eye is essentially just tracing an almond shape with like heavy lines at the top with your eyebrows sticking out. And to draw an appealing eye doesn't take much work. But understanding what's behind this is what is tough. So understanding this is an eyeball. The eyelid would be what surrounds the eyeball, right? And then your eyeball has your eye socket, and your eye socket has your cheekbone, and your cheekbone has your cheek muscle, and your cheek muscle connects to your jaw, and then your jaw shows from the side. Stuff like that. Like learning little things like that allow you to have a much deeper understanding of your concept and what you're trying to achieve. Understanding what you're drawing not only helps you widen your like your reach as an artist, because you'll be able to do more styles, you'll be able to do more projects, you won't be intimidated by things that are simple, like, you know, finding an ear on both sides, right? If you have to find an ear here, all you do is trace your line to the other side and you find your other ear, and if it shows, then great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that's something that's really hard for people. The other thing that's really hard for people is the jaw. Like understanding the jaw is a tough thing for most people. So a jaw is literally just your head. You find both ears and then you connect them together into a point. That's the bottom of your jaw, and then you get your front of your face. This is really hard for people because they don't visualize things like this, right? This is hard for people to map out from the bottom, from the top, because people don't understand the concept of a three-dimensional space. We think that we do. We often think, and we like to think that we understand perspective, but if this is difficult for you, if finding these basic shapes is difficult for you, it's gonna be very hard for you to be able to draw like characters. Like if you can't do this as some basic shape, it's gonna be really hard for you to draw that as a character, right? And stylizing that is gonna be really freaking hard. I always feel like when I'm starting a new sketchbook to mystery, I'm scared and I don't like drawing. I've ruined the whole sketchbook. You know, I used to think the same thing until I discovered post-it notes. Once I discovered post-it notes, it was like, aha, I get to cover my bad designs with post-its. All right, so we find one side of the ear, we find the other side of our shape. That's the other ear, even if we can't see it. Then we draw our jaw that goes from this side to this side, connecting at the chin. This side of the jaw on a 3/4 view face, you don't see that side of the jaw. What you see is your cheekbone. This is your cheekbone and your cheek muscle. That's what you see when you're looking from a 3/4 view. You see your forehead crevice into your eye socket crevice that leads to the middle of your eyes, roughly, to your nose bridge, to your cheek bone, to your cheek muscle from that side. And then to your chin. So all these little curves are forehead dipping into your eye, around your chin for your cheekbone, and then whatever skin you have here drapes onto your chin. So if you're chubby, you'd have more chunk. If you were more lean, you'd have a lot more straight over line. I have trauma from sketchbooks. I used to carry it around 24/7 as a kid, and my mom would force me to show it to people so she could brag. I was so scared to not have finished work in it. Well, see, that's the thing. Like, we get all those like insecurities and stuff like that from people, like either forcing something on us or somebody treating us bad or saying something negative about our work. But that is incredibly good like feedback for when you decide that you want to become a real artist, right? If you want to become a very professional artist, it's gonna take a lot of criticism, right? Lots of it, like incredible amounts of criticism. Clients are brutal, so get used to having people see your work. People seeing your work is the only way you're gonna get hired, right? So when you're young, I understand the option of being like shy and like, oh, I don't want to show my work, I'm not ready. But if you have studied art for more than a year, right, you should already be showing your work to everybody, even if it's not at the level that you believe is gonna be getting you what you need. You as a person, as an artist, need, like, this is gonna sound weird. This is gonna sound really weird. Okay? But most artists live off of ego and props. That is the number one food source for artists. Like, those are at the bottom with the most important right here. Ego and props, followed by art supplies, followed by inspiration, and followed by, I don't know, probably something like waking up or coffee. Your art is so stylized and awesome. See, the thing is, I'm not aiming to have a style to my art. Like, I'm more concerned about creating proper shapes and forms and getting that down so that I can apply whatever styling I want to my little dummy shape, right? My base shape. I can apply any styling I want to it and it's gonna look okay. Because the placement of the things are in the right place. So I'm not really teaching a style. I'm teaching you guys placement and function. Your drawings are beautiful. Oh, Emily Arts. Oh no, I think that I would traumatize me too. Luckily, no one asked to look at my sketchbook, but then again, I share them with my socials now. I'm still getting embarrassed when my family asks to see them. It might be a little bit different, yeah, to like have your family see your work, especially if they're very critical or they're very judgy. That's always going to be a little bit tough. But I highly recommend that you get used to showing your work to people outside of your network of family, because then that's going to be something that encourages you. Like, I have never met someone that looked at someone's sketchbook and was like, oh my God, that is horrible. You should not be an artist. More than anything, more often than not, you get people like, oh my God, you can draw. Oh, I can't even draw a stick figure. So you out basic shapes first and then all the detail later, so it's easier to tell where everything. Yes. Essentially what you do is you set up your drawing, and it can be, here, I'll draw a couple different styles from this, whatever. You start with your drawing, you start with your shapes, mapping out your character however you feel like by creating those elements, right? If you're doing character design, go out and like add a bunch of different variating shapes so that you have something different to play with. Okay? And then just start slowly playing around with shapes and see what facial expressions pop up. Like, keep it simple at first so that you don't have to worry about like adding all the detail to a drawing you don't like. Let's make this one into Batman. Batman. Cheekbone, forehead, jaw. So when you start using your shapes, you can start applying anything you want to them. Any styling is fine as long as you keep in mind the placement of your items, right? As long as you place them in the right, like correct place, you can exaggerate them, you can change the look, you can change their design, you can change the styling, you can change the line work, you can change the anything. Let's draw this one without the neck. Just no neck. Just into the shirt. And this one we'll make into like hyper cartoon. So the styling that you apply to it is literally just going to be something extra, just kind of like you add with your color and your line work. You're going to think of style after you create your piece the way that you need it. Is Batman your favorite character? It's my favorite superhero. I like his stories the most, but I like the Flash more as a superhero per se. Like, I would love to have the Flash's powers, but the Flash's powers are like they're boring, right? If you had infinite speed, then it'd be really hard for anyone to do anything against you. So, I don't necessarily like his stories too much, but I do enjoy his powers and the character of the Flash more than Batman. I don't know who Among Us is. You guys mention him a lot. Is it the little dudes that are like kind of like this? Are those the Among Us people? I think so. Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all well. Best wishes from Scottish Borders. Hey, Mike, I am going to be going to Scotland in February and staying there for at least a few months. So, if anyone from my followers is in the UK or in Europe in any way, shape, or form and would like to actually meet, we can probably make that happen this coming year. We can set up sketchbook sessions and stuff. That'd be really dope. Emily, it took me forever to draw in a sketchbook after high school because I remember being like 12 and she would force me to show it. Oh my God, that's horrible. Michael Pounder, great teacher, thank you. Mystery Jones, how do you go about picking a sketchbook? Ooh, that's a great thing to talk about. Oh my God, that is a fantastic one. How do you choose your sketchbooks? All right. Oh, let me stretch a little bit. Let me take a sip of my drink. All right. So, what is some stuff that Rod looks forward in his sketchbooks? When trying to decide between a sketchbook, it's very important to understand a couple factors. Right? If you want to actually take the most out of your sketchbook, you need to know what materials you can use with it. So what are all the numbers and all the things that come in the sketchbook? Like, how do we understand which sketchbook we should get? Well, lucky for us, there is an easy way to understand what sketchbooks we want to use and what we want to do. Okay, so first of all, we have to decide on what type of style we want for our sketchbooks. There is a few different types of binding of the sketchbook, and you should keep those in mind whenever you are thinking about getting a book. There is sketchbooks like these, which are considered perfect bound, I believe. Right? These, whenever they have their pages on the side, if you take a look at the edge of the sketchbook, let me see if I can pinpoint it. Right? The paper is laid out in little clumps. So therefore, whenever they open, they lay relatively flat. Right? So the sketchbooks like these are lay flat sketchbooks, or just perfect bound sketchbooks, I believe. Lay flat or perfect bound. And these are normally sketchbooks that open up completely and they lay flat. That is the one thing that I absolutely look for in a sketchbook. I hate it when a sketchbook has the little curvature in the middle. Oh my God, this little curvature drives me insane. It makes me essentially eliminate that area of the sketchbook, because when I go to scan it, it's always going to be deviated. It's going to be like, or take a picture, it's always going to be distorted because of that stupid little curve. So I don't like drawing on sketchbooks that have that stupid little curve. So that's like already like the first entry point. If a sketchbook does not lay flat, I don't use it. Period. I just don't use it. Like I have a bunch of them. Like I have a bunch of really cool ones from in all different sizes and stuff. For example, this one. This one opens up relatively open, but it's still like almost borderline, like it has a curvature, so I still don't use this, and I haven't used this in years. Even though it's a perfectly suitable sketchbook, it's just something that deters me because I know it's going to be a pain in the ass whenever I go clean up my drawing. So I don't do these. If it has a little bump, I can get out of here. Second, I do not like spiral sketchbooks. I just don't like them. I don't like them at all. The spiral normally makes your sketchbook lay flat, right? But it has a big gap in the middle now, right? And you also have to deal with the binding and like the paper ripping, and longevity of the sketchbook tends to be less with a spiral sketchbook. Right? They don't last for years because anything that slightly rips a page is going to just make that loose, and then that page is going to rip other pages out, and it just ends up being a mess. So I personally do not like going for spiral sketchbooks. The clumps are called signatures. Really? That's what they're called? Like the little lumps? Jeez, I hate those signatures then. I believe the sketchbook chooses you. No, I don't think so. What sketchbooks lay flat without a spiral? Well, a couple different ones that actually lay flat nicely are Illo sketchbooks, like the one I'm using right now. Danique sketchbooks, which allow you to have like, first of all, open, and then second, you can put your own art on these. So these are really cool because of that. And they're affordable too. These both are very affordable. I think they're under $15 for either one of those. Under 15. Moleskine is also another one that opens up nicely, but these are expensive. These are like in the range of like $20+ per sketchbook, which I wouldn't mind if it was a thicker sketchbook, but they tend to not have the most thick sketchbooks, and therefore that is what eliminates Moleskine for me for the most part. There's Kanzen 360 or Kanzen 180 sketchbooks. And they call them 180 because they laid down at 180 degrees. So Kanzen 180 sketchbooks come in the small ones and the big ones. So you guys can, like look these up. These were the ones that I started with, but the paper is really thin. So I don't necessarily always recommend them. Especially if you're going to be using anything outside of just a ballpoint pen, or you plan on doing anything with markers or color, don't go with the Kanzens. Their paper is way too thin. Now, let's talk a little bit about the paper weight, because the paper weight is going to be something that is very important when it comes down to your sketchbook. Now, your paper weight is going to normally be on a little thing that says like 90 grams or 80 grams or 120 grams, right? It's going to give you a pound percentage or something like that. Now, that percentage, the higher the number, so let's say you have like a 120 gram, right? Like weight. That is going to be a thick cardstock. It's going to be a lot thicker, and it's going to be more so akin for like mixed media. So you could probably put on the 120, you could probably put oils, more paint in general, and be able to use markers and stuff like that without it bleeding through your page. Now, most sketchbooks range in the area of 80 to about 100. Right? 80 is going to be, or 60 or 70 or 80 is going to be your newspaper paper, like super thin, meant for like sketching only. Like it would probably break if you like erase too much or something like that. And this is a very thin paper. You should normally avoid this if you want to actually do anything in your sketchbook other than just doodling really quickly. Right? Little sketchbooks tend to be around the 90 to 100, and that's the Moleskines or like your travel size journals like these. This one actually has relatively thick paper, so that's probably like 100. Illo sketchbooks, I believe, are about 90, and the Nick sketchbooks are, I think, 100. So keep in mind that having roughly around 100 is going to give you like a more hard surface paper. So you have to also remember that that's normally going to come with a waxy feel to your paper, right? That little waxy feel is the coating that they normally put on it. So there's some that have coarse, so it's going to feel like textured, like, and then there's going to be smooth. So watercolor paper tends to have texture because you're needed to be able to properly assign the color to your pieces. Smooth paper is better for graphite or pen because it does not have the little bumps, and therefore it does not make your things smudge or like pull up as much. So keeping all those things in mind, I normally go for lay flat sketchbooks that have about 100 grams worth of weight so that I can draw from both sides and not have it bleed to the other side. Illo and the Nick sketchbooks are my absolute favorite, mostly because they sponsor me, and second of all, because they sponsor me for a reason. It's because it's the only sketchbooks that I choose. So, have you ever done digital, or do you ever plan to? Oh man, I do digital work all the time. Like, I have entire galleries worth of digital work. Just go to rodgon.com. Just do yourself a favor, go to rodgon.com and then just browse the things that I have. Like, I create everything from production art to illustrations that are like Disney worthy. There is really not much in the art world that I do not do anymore. The only thing that I haven't touched really recently is 3D modeling. That's the only thing that I don't normally like touch because it just has traumas in my past and it brings up memories of things that I don't want to remember. So that is the only reason that I don't touch 3D. Because I used to be really good at 3D and I gave up because somebody stole all my shit from my hard drives. Like somebody stole my hard drives and my backup hard drives whenever I went to save my shit for graduation. So that deterred me. 20 years ago, something like that happened. Even though I was like, I would say that I was incredibly good at 3D modeling. I never touched it again. It was such a deterrent to lose all the work that I did for 4 years that I honestly just gave up on it instead of trying to go back. So I don't recommend you guys take that approach to things. I know that even if it was like 4 years worth of work, it's 4 years worth of student work, right? Student work tends to cycle out of your your portfolio relatively quick, right? So I should have just stuck to it. I should have just made some more bodies of work, and then I would have just been fine in that field as well. And it's something that I've been thinking about touching back into because I want to make toys. I want to make vinyl toys to people. I want to make vinyl figures, vinyl reference figures, and stuff like that as well. So that's going to involve a good amount of 3D work. And if I don't want to have to pay someone to do it, I'm going to have to learn how to do it myself, which is going to benefit everybody because then I get to teach everybody how to do it. I don't mind getting the spiral sketchbooks, and sure, the cover rips, but the papers are good for like sketches. Yeah, no, like the thing is, they're all sketchbooks. They're all gonna be good. Like there is no sketchbook that we should not love because it's giving us a reason or an ability to be able to draw on it, right? So we should all love our sketchbooks dearly. Little ones, big ones, small ones, bad ones, ones with crappy paper, whatever. There are sketchbooks, and we get to doodle all over them and learn from them. So at the end of the day, we should just embrace the fact that we have something to draw on and just keep drawing and filling them up as fun as possible. And if you don't like the paper in one that you got, use it as a scrap one. Use it to learn things and draw things that you would not normally consider drawing. That way, if it's a bad sketchbook, at least you got some learning out of it. My goal every day, or at least it was at the beginning, my goal was to draw at least 15 minutes in my sketchbook every day. Well, if I could manage to draw 15 minutes in my sketchbook, I would. I like to think that those 15 minutes a day, first of all, saved my soul from like just being bored out of my goddamn mind in my breaks. And second, it allows you to touch back in the things that you love about art. And it allows you to like just think back and like reflect every day on why you enjoy drawing. Why do you enjoy drawing? Why do you want to get better? Why do you want to improve? Right? Like I constantly ask myself these questions because I need to know, and I need to know the answer. I need to constantly remind myself of why I'm doing what I'm doing so that it has value, so that I don't just sit there and not do anything for days at a time. It's very easy to get discouraged in this field, right? You get to see other people with like incredibly talented human beings, and sometimes you see people that are less talented than you, like like succeed, and it's hard to be like, well, why can't that be me? Right? We often compare ourselves to other struggles, who like how other people live, how other people post, how other people draw, how other people create, and we often find ourselves wanting to be like that and doing the things that they do and having the success that they do. And when other people have success and we don't, it tends to put us down a little bit, right? Because expectations, societal expectations, like. But at the end of the day, it's you and your sketchbook versus the world, right? It's you and the little guy right there. These guys right here. For as much as they don't really talk to us or communicate with us or able to do anything for us except just lay there and let us draw on them, they are our strongest and best friend when it comes down to our progression in this little world. Without our sketchbooks or our iPads or something that we can doodle on, we are essentially sitting ducks in the water that we won't see any growth unless we actually put the time in. I love a little prop to angle my spirals bound, and it's fine. All right, great. Emily Arns, hey Rod, I've just thought it would be cool if you designed the character based on what your followers want them to look like half human, half animal. Oh my god, we could totally do a stream like that. I think that'd be really cool. Basic shapes turn into basic heads. Basic shapes can turn into basic bodies. Basic shapes can turn into basic anatomy. Boop, boop, doop, boop, 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 doop. So a lot of you guys ask me how to draw from memory better. Well, your sketchbook again is going to be the answer. Your drawings from memory tend to be what you have established into your mental library. Your mental library is all the things that you have drawn in the past. Everything that you have drawn and you have successfully practiced is in your mental library. So the reason we don't think too much about drawing a circle is because that's in our mental library. The reason that we might not think too much about drawing a sun, let's say like this, is because that's how we drew our suns when we were little. Therefore, it's in our mental library. If you know how to draw textures and stuff like that, like trees and plants and stuff like that, the more you spend outside drawing plants quickly, you'll start shorthanding the textures that you see. And that's another thing that you add to your library. Whenever you're drawing basic shapes, right, and you find one that looks really cool, that makes it look like a really cool face, that instantly gets added to your mental library, and now you're going to be able to draw it a lot more often. So things like this are the elements that essentially, when put together, are going to help you become a much more well-rounded artist. And in time, it'll allow you to be able to create characters from absolutely ridiculous shapes, because you'll just know when to put and where to put the placement for things. It just becomes a lot simpler to be able to map things out, like faces, arms, bodies, poses, environments, or vehicles, or anything like that, the more that you draw them. So you have to constantly find yourself in situations that call for these sort of things. Like if you don't practice a certain element in art, you're not going to get better at it. Be it cars. It can be simple sketches. It doesn't have to be super complex. Be it plants or backgrounds or elements like that. Be it your perspective or your lighting. Like all these things play a role. Your storytelling could, be a big one too. All those elements play a role into how you get better. How you get better at those is by practicing them in your sketchbook. You don't just practice them from nothing, though. Go on Pinterest, go on Instagram, go on YouTube, go on anything that you require to be able to get that inspiration and that reference that you're going to need to be able to get better. You can't just expect to get better out of nowhere, right? You can't just magically understand concepts without practicing them. And you can't really go around just drawing things that you already know over and over and over and expect yourself to get better. You're going to get more refined at the things that you already know, that's for sure. But you're not going to improve, or you're not going to add to your mental library by just drawing the same things over and over. So you have to constantly challenge yourself. You have to constantly tell yourself, hey, what can I do today that's going to push my skills a little bit farther? What do I not understand? What can I possibly improve on that I can achieve today? What can I study? What can I focus on for 30 minutes that might help me become a better artist? Is it hands? Is it perspective? Is it shading? Is it lighting? Is it line work? Is it like a certain body feature that you don't understand, like feet, right? Feet are hard for people. But once you understand that it's just a basic shape, it becomes a lot easier. So we are close to the end of the page. So we have fulfilled our goal for today. We have talked about sketchbooks, sketchbook habits. I give you guys a couple hints as to how you use your sketchbooks, how to choose your sketchbooks, and how to see things in a slightly different way so that you can see more and more success, progression, and improvement within you and your drawings in general. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Happy get over Thanksgiving coma day, as I like to call it. Funny, as a mostly landscape guy, I'd say the opposite. Creating appealing characters and posing them hands is way harder than nature. See, yeah, again, it all depends on your expertise and what you have focused on. So it's not necessarily hard, it's just something you haven't learned yet, right? Like, don't think about it as hard because it's not necessarily all that hard. It's if you learn how to draw landscapes, you can apply your knowledge of landscapes to your knowledge of anatomy, to your knowledge of perspective. And you can always grow your skill set easier by understanding what you're drawing. The moment that you start understanding what you're drawing, then it's no longer a guessing game. Then it just becomes knowledge. It becomes like understanding. If you're still guessing as to where to put elements in a drawing, then practice that element over and over again. If you're having issues with the three-quarter faces, right, for example, and you have issues with like this eye or like the spacing between the lip and the mouth or the spacing between the chin and the mouth, well, go and draw some skulls. Draw some like anatomy. See what you're drawing. Understand the bumps and the angles and the elements that are just bothering you and they're keeping you from learning. Sometimes it means unlearning a lot of the things that we learned that are kind of just like blocking us because we assume that we have knowledge that we don't. That happens a lot with perspective. A lot of people think that they understand the concept of a round shape is a sphere, but they very rarely apply that to their knowledge of drawing. So they will boast on about understanding perspective and everything, but then they won't be able to draw an eye from like the other side of the face because, well, they don't know that style yet, right? When again, it should not be about style, it should be about function and form instead at first. Once you learn form and function of your body parts, then you can break the stigma, break the styles, break, all the concepts because you understand them, and now you can actually change them. But in order to be able to change the rules, you need to understand them. And if you don't understand them and you don't put any importance on them, then you're never going to see them as something that you need to learn. And therefore you will not see as much growth as people that do. And this is not going to be growth that you see like immediately, right? You're not going to be like a week or two in and be like, oh, well, I improved a quadrillion fold. It could happen, but it's probably not going to happen like that. It's going to be like, you're just going to start understanding and things are going to click better. You're just going to be like, oh, shit. Oh, wait, why have I been drawing things like this? Oh, man. Okay, cool. I can fix that now. Or things will start looking wrong. Like you'll be like, oh, well, how come this sketch looks weird? Oh, it's because this is not there. Oh, that happened to me a lot when with the jaw, right? Understanding like how the jaw connected to the face was a lot of it was a lot of like trial and error on my part to be able to make it make sense to me. Like until I just came up with the concept of having the ear be the pivot for the jaw. Once I did that, it was easy because then I can just map out my ears and then it's just hinging boop, 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 from one side and the other. So it becomes a lot easier to manage your shapes. I've been watching people draw so long, I think I can do it. Draw what your heart says to. Yeah, I mean, that's what we do at first. Like, everybody learns the same way. We all learn by drawing the things that we like. it's when we start drawing the things we don't like that we discover if we are really artistic or not. Because when you start drawing the things that you don't necessarily like, that's when you really put forth your imagination and your creativeness, right? How can I make this thing that I'm not appealed to, or that's not appealing to me, appealing? How do I make this look amazing with just the touch of my skill? Because that's what we do. As artists, we just beautify things. Like, I took this blank page, this completely blank page, and I made it beautiful by just drawing little lines on it. Same thing happens with clothing, same thing happens with sketchbooks, same thing happens with everything. If you're an artist, you have the Midas touch when it comes down to making things pretty. And that's a big power that you have. That is a big, powerful tool that you have at your disposal. So make sure to make the most of it. With watercolor, if you ever need to remove, you can just go over it with a brush over and over while you wipe away the extra paint, and it removes a little bit of it. All right, cool. We are at the end of our sketchbook. Thank you so much for keeping me company. You guys are the best. As always, I like to make sure to thank all of you for keeping me company this morning. You guys are the best part of my day most of the times. So I enjoy my drawing buddies. I hope that you guys had your sketchbooks out and you guys learned a little bit. If you guys did, there's ways that you guys can help support the cause. I am aiming to become a full-time teacher. So if you guys do feel inclined to help support the cause, there is books that you guys can purchase from me. There is merchandise and stuff like that as well. And you guys can find all those links through my Instagram stories. And I believe the YouTube links in the video will actually take you there too. But other than that, all I need from you guys is to learn a little, smile a little, and draw a little. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Love you all. Have a wonderful weekend. I won't be on tomorrow, but I will be on Sunday. So Saturdays are my days off. So I will see you guys on Sunday. Make sure to bring your questions. If you guys have a theme that you guys want to be taught, please make sure to send it to me in a DM, a message, or a comment on Instagram so that I can see it and I can take that into consideration. I love hearing from you guys, and I love knowing what you guys want to learn so that I can focus on studying and teaching the things that you guys find troublesome. So that is my goal. My goal is to help you guys out. I am your teacher, Rodgon, the artist, here, signing out. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. I love you. Take care.